Welcome to the Here's Hope Project, where your story creates hope. Now, I'm Sarah Jane, and in today's episode, we're going to be speaking with Francesca, who's been battling chronic illness for about half of her life. Now, we'll be talking about identity specifically and how it sort of evolves and transforms over time based on your experiences. And Francesca has a unique story to share because she spent about half of her life just this vibrant, healthy child until one day she just found herself in a position where she was unable to do the things that she was able to do before. So we'll be talking about how her identity sort of transformed and evolved through this experience. We'll be talking about the things she's learned, and we'll also be talking about the kind of person she became because of it. Now, I know you're going to want to listen to this whole episode because Francesca really does have an incredible story to share. So, what do you say we go meet her?
'Cause it's here where we lay in my blanket of despair, where I'm weak but I'm strong and black smoke fills the air, where I'm burning broken.
Hi, Francesca.
Hey, Sarah Jane.
I am so excited because we've been talking about doing this episode for like 2.5 months, and you are here. It's finally happening. I'm so excited. So, yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for this platform and just sharing people's stories and holding this space. I'm just so excited, and thank you for asking me to be on here today.
Well, yeah, of course. So today we are talking about sort of identity and how chronic illness affects the way that we see ourselves. And I love this topic because I think that there's so much that goes into identity and sort of some misconceptions around it too, right? Like there's nothing that actually defines you. Not one thing defines you. So you aren't your illness, you aren't your anxiety, you aren't your depression or your mistakes. Your anxiety or your anxiety, your identity sort of encompasses everything, right? And it's something that's constantly evolving over time. And when we bring chronic illness into the mix, we not only have this mental kind of perception of who we are, but our physical self and our physical limitations, those also play a big role in sort of determining how we see ourselves. And so it's kind of a treacherous journey. It's a long, hard journey, but it is one that leads to sort of a lot of growth and self-discovery. And this is a journey that you've been on for, I don't know, I want to say well over 13 years. And yeah, so why don't you get us started if you can maybe go into, how did you view yourself before you got sick? And then what sort of obstacles and health struggles did you face that sort of began that process of transformation?
Yeah, of course. And I just loved how you said that identity isn't just physical or mental, it's both, and even external aspects as well. It's the whole of our being that's involved in our identity. And I love how each aspect plays a different part within that. And definitely within my story, there's been mental and physical aspects of identity and the struggle with that as well. Before I start, I really wanted to share a quote that I feel really encapsulates my journey. And it's from the movie called The Lucky One, and it talks about the struggles in life and the light and darkness that we face. And it says, the smallest thing can change your life. In the blink of an eye, something happens by chance, and when you least expect it, sets you on a course that you could have never planned, into a future you never imagined. Where will it take you? That's the journey of our lives. Our search for the light. But sometimes finding the light means you must pass through the deepest darkness. At least that's how it was for me. And this quote really puts into a nutshell my journey from growing up in the light to so much darkness to then finding the light again. And so back to your question, before I became unwell, I loved life. I was very enthusiastic. I was very active. I just loved every aspect of life as a child, and adversity wasn't really in my vocabulary growing up. And so I did a lot of dancing 3 times a week. I was in the orchestra, the choir at school, played my flute, was on sports teams, did every extracurricular activity under the sun, you name it, I did it. And if I couldn't do it, I'd be determined to work at it until I did. And so I wouldn't say I took life for granted, but I didn't really know any different. I had a few little health problems here and there, but it wasn't anything major as to affect my quality of life. And so, yeah, that was the start of my life was very full and just loved every aspect of it. And then when I was 12 years old, I had an accident at school. And that year of 2007, my life just landslided very, very fast. And I went from being so active to not being able to get up off the couch, and was encompassed by fatigue and pain and felt very sick. I lost immense amounts of weight and was diagnosed very quickly with chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. And I was under the best hospital in the UK, one of the world's leading children's hospitals, Great Ormond Street, but even then wasn't able to help me. And so it was very, very dark. And in the year of 2008, it was probably the toughest year of my life, being severely underweight, not being able to eat any solid food, experiencing seizures, and then having to leave school at the age of 13. And so it was very, very challenging. And then over the years, I've had times where I've been completely bedbound, and then I would have to rehabilitate from scratch, being able to like sit up myself, being able to speak, being able to feed myself, being able to read, and then being able to learn to walk again. And this was very, very challenging. And there'll be times again when I was bedbound and have to start all over again. But it's been a real journey for sure the last 16 years. And I've been diagnosed with many other things over the years, with POTS, HEDS, IBS, and now mast cell disease. And then in 2020, I experienced something called a hemiplegic migraine, and so I lost the ability to use the whole of the left hand side of my body. So that represents symptoms of a stroke as well. And so from the end of 2020, I've been a full-time wheelchair user. I've the left hand side was partially paralyzed. Now I have the ability back in my right hand and right arm, left arm, sorry, the left arm, but the whole of my left leg is still partially paralyzed. And so I haven't been able to walk from that time, and also was diagnosed with CRPS. And that is probably one of the highest pain levels known to the medic world of that disease as well. So it's definitely been a real struggle, not only physically but mentally as well. I struggled with severe depression and anxiety, OCD, self-harm, and also an eating disorder from severe pain in my stomach. And so that really my body physically changed a lot, like physically changed each year, and really lost who I was during that time as well. And so it's been a real struggle to be able to get back to that point, to where I am today.
Yeah, that has to be hard to go from being healthy to sick overnight.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, before you were 13, you had this active lifestyle. You were in theater and dance, and you played sports. And then suddenly, you find yourself the next day just unable to do the things that you were able to do before. Now, I imagine that with that, there's sort of like this time in the beginning where you just have a lot of hope, right? That you can really get better, hope that you can get better and get back to that normal life that you had before, right?
Mhm. Yes. So for me, in the timeline of 2007, it was in the February time that my life started to go downhill. And then I'd say in the summer, I got a virus as well. So it was a very quick, a quick period of time. And then I'd say there was about a month in that summertime where I just felt like, oh, I could finally get my life back again. But then by the September, that was quickly taken away. And it got to a point where I just knew something within my body that didn't feel the same as it was before. And so that hope quite quickly diminished during that time as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, you realized pretty quickly that your old life was gone and that you'd have to sort of start rebuilding yourself. So I'm wondering with that, what kind of stages would you say you went through when it came to kind of rediscovering yourself?
Hmm. Yeah, where it was a quick realization that I couldn't get the old Francesca back again, that obviously took away a lot of hope, and it felt very, very dark for a long period of time. I felt immensely scared and very sad, and also that came with a lot of frustration, being able to do a lot beforehand to not being able to do anything. And I didn't realize at the time what I was experiencing until quite a few years later. Looking back, I was actually grieving the life that I once had and couldn't regain. And so that looked like a lot of searching, a lot of searching for answers throughout a lot of darkness and a lot of, yeah, despair during those years. And then I would say it took till about 2015 to 2017 that I was able to actually have a hope again and find little glimpses of myself that wasn't there before. And so the old Francesca in my joy and some of my personality was seeping back into my life again. But that took a very, very long time. And I think actually getting to a place of realizing that I was experiencing grief helped me accept where I was and then was able to move forward in a new way.
Yeah, I love that you said that. And I love it because, I mean, I don't have chronic illness, I have mental illness, but I can still find a lot of ways to kind of relate and to connect with that because I had a moment too where it was overnight for me. And I was, I couldn't really take care of myself anymore for a period of time. And I was just really kind of lost and lost a lot of my ability. And I just kind of, I had no idea who I was at that point. And so, like you were saying, when something life changing happens and you can't do the things that you were able to do before, you are grieving that loss. But as you are doing that, like you said, you are kind of finding yourself again slowly. And you notice that those old pieces of you are still kind of seeping in just, in a new way. So that
Absolutely.
was well said. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm so glad that
Uh,
you with that too.
yeah. So now you said that you spent years feeling just lost and in the
Mhm.
dark. How would you say you got through that stage where you were really struggling with depression? And then did you feel shame? Like, did you feel shame that you shouldn't be feeling that way?
Yes, absolutely. And even to this year, I felt somewhat embarrassed about what I've been through and my story and different things I've had to fight through. Like, I've also felt a lot of guilt that comes with that, being chronically ill and having, like you said, not being able to take care of yourself and needing my family's help all the time. And that comes with a lot of shame and a lot of guilt and a lot of embarrassment. And so during those years of very much darkness, I've had the most amazing family and friends, and I think without them I definitely wouldn't be sat here today. And so their strength really helped get me through. And my grandma was also like a really great person. Well, she's still here with us, but she has always been my person that I would go to. And she says that a problem shared is a problem halved. And so it was always helpful to have somebody to talk to and just to feel like I wasn't alone, even though she couldn't really understand what I was going through, but was always there. And I think during the darkest of times, we've said before, like music really, really touches you, and music is the universal language as well. I've heard that said before, and specifically a song called "The Sweet Silver Lining" by Kate Vogel was my absolute favorite song. And the lyrics of those says, so many people are looking to me to be strong and to fight, but I'm just surviving. And I may be weak, but I'm never defeated, and I'll keep believing in clouds with that sweet silver lining. And so I also have, during those times that I was just in the dark, being bedbound, I had this like holding cross that I still have to this day, and I would just like hold on to it and kind of pray to be able to feel God's love and to be able to feel a sense of safety in a world where my body and everything around me was so unstable. Being able to have that love from God and that peace through those times really helped as well. And then I'd say the thing that really helped kick my depression was finding a fantastic CBT therapist who was helping me in my rehabilitation from home. And she was able to come and visit me at home, and being able to help with those suicidal thoughts and severe anxiety really, really helped. And that was from about 2012 to 2014, really helped me during that time immensely.
Oh, good. I want to go back to that song that you mentioned, Kate Vogel's song, because
Yes.
I really like those lyrics. It was so many people are looking to me to be strong and fight, but I'm just surviving.
Mhm.
And I can't tell you how many times I have heard from parents that, they get approached and people saying, "You're so strong. How do you do it?" And 99% of the time they come back and they say, "We just don't have a choice."
No.
When you're faced with something like that, I mean, you don't have a choice but to be strong, and you don't realize how strong you are until you are faced with something like that. And then also those lyrics, it makes me kind of realize that you're not the only one on this journey, that
Mhm.
it's your friends and your family as well. So with
Yes.
that being said, what did you notice your family and friends going through? And did you feel kind of pressure to get better for them?
Mhm. Um, yeah, absolutely. I think with like you said, the last part of that feeling pressure, I definitely did a lot of the time, and still up to this day, feeling that need to want to be that old person again. But in the very beginning, it was very scary, especially, well, both for my friends and my family, but for my friends. I was always at school and always very bubbly, energetic, like love for life Cheska. And then when everything changed, it was very sudden and they could see me deteriorate very fast as well. And so for them, that was very, very scary. And they felt that there was a point that I wasn't going to get better. And so that was very, very hard for them. And where I lost a lot of weight, so physically looked very, very different. Like I was a shadow of my former self and I couldn't walk anymore. I was in a wheelchair. I'd lost a lot of my hair and just my light had gone out. And so for them, it was, yeah, like I said, very scary. And trying to navigate this when you're preteen is very, very difficult. That they've never once left my side and never forgotten me or given up on me, which is, I know that's very rare with people with chronic illness. And so I feel very, very lucky to have that. And then since we've grown older, there's a different understanding and being able to finally do different things again. And that was very exciting for them when that came a few years ago as well. And then with my family, I was always very, very independent and very confident and didn't need anybody's help. I could just manage it on my own. I was always the person who would be making friends and just making sure nobody was left out. And so when everything changed, my little sister, she lost her big sister, and that is something that to this day has left me with a lot of guilt that I could no longer be there for her in the way that I was before. And so the whole of the dynamic of my family changed. And so it was taking my mum, my grandma, my granddad, and my dad to look after me in those early days. And so, yeah, going from a confident person who didn't need any help to constantly needing 24/7 care was very, very difficult for them. And it's been a struggle over the years for different people coping in different ways. But my family is so strong and I'm just so thankful for them. And my granddad's no longer here, but with his help and care as well, I just wanted to bring him into the conversation because I wouldn't be here without him as well. And so, yeah, it's been a long road, but I'm just, yeah, grateful to be here where I am today.
It's great to hear that you had such a strong support system. That's such a blessing.
Absolutely.
Would you say that there was kind of a pivotal or defining moment where you reached a level of acceptance and really started to kind of come out of that depression and find yourself again?
Yes. So I would say around 2015, 2017. And also I wanted to mention that, like you said in the last question, that where I became unwell at such a young age, at like preteen, 12, 13, when I got to my 20s, that realistic expectation of me going back to who I once was no longer there. Like, nobody, whether they've gone through health challenges or not, are ever going to be the same person that they were when they were adolescents. And so that really helped in the way of moving forwards, in the way of acceptance. And so I'd say reaching acceptance and coming out of depression were two different things for me. And reaching a place of acceptance helped me move out of the depression. And so that was again, yeah, between 2015, 2016. And it came with a way of like finding myself and comforting myself and being able to accept who I was and not having that, that expectation on me to be something that I'm not, and knowing that the reality of that was never going to be able to be reached again. And so that was, yeah, I'd say by the end of 2017, that's when the depression really, I would say I wouldn't struggle with it anymore. It would just be fleeting thoughts here and there, and different feelings. And I've got to the point now where I'm able to recognize what I'm feeling and then be able to validate how I'm feeling and then move through that, rather than having to sit in that depression and then going deeper down into that too, which has been really such a blessing.
I like that you said that it's, there's two parts, like reaching the acceptance and then coming out of the depression. And it was kind of similar for me too. When I was really struggling with depression, it was just a fight to survive. And it wasn't really until I could regain some like emotional stability that I was really able to kind of process and accept what was happening and then move on from that. So I can kind of relate to what you're saying. That's awesome. That was really well said. So we talked about this a little bit before, but kind of just to lay it out and paint a picture now, who would you say the old you was? Who were you? Who did you, or how did you see yourself when you were kind of going through it? And then how do you see yourself now?
Yeah, and so yeah, for sure. I think, as I've mentioned before, I was very bubbly, very energetic, didn't really have very much anxiety about life. I was a very sensitive child, and always had a lot of empathy for others, but I wouldn't say I was shy in any way. I was just always looking out for others and making sure that they were okay and just enjoying life. I just loved everything that I did and always was looking forward to the next thing. And it was just my schedule was so jam packed too. And then I'd say in the transition of, yeah, in the darkness, I was just, everything felt so dark and felt very, very isolated and very alone. And then I did become very introverted and very shy, and I extreme anxiety attacks, panic attacks, and just wasn't myself anymore. And as you were saying before, with identity, the way that it is both mental and physical, and I can look back over the course of these last 16 years, and physically, I've not looked the same each year as well. And so that was very, very difficult to manage mentally as well as physically. And also becoming a wheelchair user, I wanted to highlight in a way that there's these like negative connotations and preconceived notions of being in a wheelchair, and so that brought a lot of questions internally from external factors of being out in my wheelchair, or even at school I was known as the girl in the wheelchair. And so that was very, very difficult to process mentally as well, from having being a very active person to not being able to do everything that I could previously. And so that was a real struggle in that way too. And then now I'd say one thing that my friends have said to me is that I'm very resilient through different things and very strong. And at one point, I wouldn't have seen that in myself, but now I definitely do. But also a strength, but also a gentleness and a grace that I've learned to be able to give myself, and hopefully extend that to other people as well. And a lot of patience when you struggle to do things that you once were able to do that you now couldn't do. I've learned a lot of patience and a lot of determination through that as well. And so, yeah, I would say I love myself unconditionally in a way that I didn't before. Like, even if I look a complete mess, I still have that inner self love and compassion. Whereas before, it was a real struggle to find that self love in the darkest of times. And yeah, just trying to just be as strong as I can and continue in the way that Jesus does, and carry that light that I feel like has come back into my life now.
Yeah, so you kind of had a lot of blessings that came out of that. A lot came out of that. And one of the things I notice in you too is just you have a lot of empathy. You really care about people and you have such a good heart. And, I think when you go through like what you're going through, it really does enhance that sense of empathy for others, and it allows you to connect with people on a deeper level. And they don't even have to go through the same circumstances as you do. You're just able to connect with people kind of all different walks of life. And so it ends up being a gift. And I always say, there's beauty in pain. There's always blessings that come from everything. It's, it's hard to see sometimes, but it's there. Uh,
Yeah.
So with that, I guess now having gone through everything that you've been through, do you kind of feel a new sense of purpose?
Yes, absolutely. And I love how you said about even though the people that I connect with haven't gone through exactly the same, it's just been a huge blessing the way that God has brought more and more people into my life each year. And that has just helped open up my world in a way that I didn't have before. I felt very, very isolated in the dark times. But then having that, a family friend said to me at the very beginning of when all this started, she said, Francesca, one day you'll understand why you're going through what you're going through. You may not understand right now, but one time you will. And I feel like I've got to that day now, which has been amazing to see. And I had a dear friend pass away over Easter this year, and she was like a spiritual mom to me. That's what I used to call her. And she, at her funeral, everybody there was speaking, and it was just her faith that was running through that. And I said to God, if all you want me to do is to have faith and love others, then I can do that, because my life may not look quote unquote normal there's everybody else, but if that's how God wants me to live my life, I will just follow in that way the best that I possibly can. And I think that's the thing, when you go through such adversity, your life isn't going to look the same again, and you take those lessons that you've learned and you can, as we've been saying, like move forward but in a new way. And so having that expectation of it being different and being a different person than you once was is really helpful in that way as well, to be able to move forward in a different way from maybe the world or society would look. And so, like, for me, I haven't achieved all of the things that society would deem as the path in life, but I'm now on a path that really does feel so blessed by God and such purpose throughout that as well.
That's great. I like what you said about it might not look like what society considers successful,
Yes.
because the moment that you start to compare yourself to others or what you think you should be doing, that's the moment you run into trouble and some problems, right? And I like that, you really lean into God and his plans for you. And I can say with 100% certainty, I can see his plans and your future just coming to fruition, because you've been given sort of multiple platforms now to share your story for the first time. And it's beautiful to kind of see. And so I feel like this is really your time to shine and inspire others. Is there anything with that you would maybe tell your former self, or just maybe someone else that's just beginning their journey with chronic illness and maybe they're going through that stage of depression and grief?
So, firstly, thank you so much for saying that and for being one of those people who have just supported me and given me this platform to be able to share, and just supporting me when I didn't see it in myself. So, thank you so much. And then I love this question. It's actually been something that I've been thinking a lot about. And for myself, I would say that life is hard and it is going to be hard, but that is okay. And to always hold on to hope, because life will get better. The light will come back and joy will come back as well. But also to validate how you're feeling, because in those times where it feels so, so hard, going from so many different medical appointments and missing out on the life that you thought that you were going to have but no longer do, to just validate that it is hard, and those validate all the emotions that you are feeling as well. And I probably would have the same advice to somebody who's listening, going through a hard time, to not put yourself down. And the biggest lie that you could ever tell yourself is that your life doesn't matter and that life will be better off without you being here. So if somebody's listening who is struggling, I want you to know that you matter. Your life has a purpose. You are so loved and you are made so wonderfully and uniquely, and the world needs you. And all of those thoughts and lies in your head, to just not believe those, because you matter. And yeah, that your life will have hope again and things will be able to move into the light, because for so many years I didn't think I would be here. And to be able to sit here today and feeling so much joy and different experiences and different emotions that I didn't ever think I would feel again. Um, I didn't even think this day would come. And so I'm really proud of that, Francesca, going through all of that and not giving up as well, because it could have been so difficult and so easy to just feel like, okay, I'm done, and just be gone. And to keep pushing through that, even when it has been so immensely hard, I'm really grateful to be where I am and for God to give me this life in a different way. And so people who are listening as well, even if your life looks different from what you thought it would be or looks different from other people, it's good to take inspiration from others, but not, as Sarah Jane said, to not compare yourself to other people's journeys, because everybody is unique. Everybody's journey and story is their own, and you are you, and there's no other you in this world. And so to just keep holding on, but also to reach out for help. It is not weak to ask for help and to let somebody know that you are struggling as well. And I wish I could have done that sooner, because it would taught me so much to be able to reach out to friends and to know that for them to be able to support me in that. And that's grown such a different and deepened friendship as well. So if you do need somebody to talk to, I know Sarah Jane's going to put my Instagram handles on His Hope Instagram as well, so you can feel free to reach out to me anytime if you need an extra person to be a listening ear as well.
Yeah, I'll definitely put your Instagram handle on in the description of the video so anyone listening can refer to that and get in touch with you. Man, you gave a lot of great answers right there. I'm not sure which one to respond to. But I think one of the most important things you mentioned was how hard it is, that it's a lot of hard work. And I think sometimes people think that the transformation and the healing should happen pretty quick. And I don't know if it's because of the movies. Like in the movies, you have a character, and within an hour and a half, they're transforming, evolving, and I don't know, they completely change as a person and for the better. And so I don't know if that's it, but I know that it really does take a lot of work, and you really need to just be patient with yourself and allow yourself a lot of grace. So yeah. Well, listen, thank you for being just so vulnerable and letting us into your world. I know that's not easy to do. So I feel so honored to be able to call you a friend. And I'm so excited to be able to just go on this journey with you and see where you're going to go, because I know it's to big places. You are going to do big things. You have such a powerful story to share. And thank you for sharing it with us today. So, yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Sarah Jane. It's just been, the honor is all mine as well. And I'm just super excited to get to share this story and hear everybody else's amazing stories as well. So just thank you for everything that you're doing. And the Here's Hope Project really does bring so much hope to those who are watching. And we hope that this story as well can bring so much hope when it may feel like a time where you're stuck in the darkness. There is hope, and keep being you.